Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be tackling how I would end the third installment to a movie that needs no third installment. In fact, it probably didn't even need a second installment. But that movie is the Dumb and Dumber series. I would call mine Dumb and Dumber 3, Dumb and Dumberist. The first movie was so great because it was one of the rare movies of the 90s that we saw two idiots fail upwards. Most of the movies around that time were about people who were idiots kind of got what was coming to them, and that was the general theme. And as time progressed and cinema became more dark and moody, that idea went away. And I think that's what made Dumb and Dumber 1 so special. Dumb and Dumber 2 came out years later, and after a lot of turmoil, a lot of weird Hollywood, backstage stuff, it was in developmental hell for a long time, was released to mediocre reviews, and I would tend to agree. In the second installment, I'm not sure they quite captured what made the first one so fun, so I tried to capture that in what I believe the third installment should be. So what made the first film fun? It included idiots that thought they were cool. They acquired ridiculous vehicles, they pulled innocent scams, and they came into money, which translated into they have access to anything. So we got to watch these two kind of buffoons have access to whatever they wanted. And that was the joy and that was the fun in that movie. Dumb and Dumber 3 would open up with Harry and Lloyd kind of coming to terms with the idea that they've lost the love of their life, not once, but twice. And that is a devastating thing for any normal person to deal with. But we're not dealing with normal people. We are dealing with idiots. And I say that as a term of endearment. But they decide to come back and rejoin the workforce. It seems like it's the natural thing to do. It's what they're told to do. So they go out and they apply for jobs. Places like Jamba Juice and Subway and movie theaters. And they order smoothies and sandwiches and concessions thinking that it's free, not realizing that when you're on an interview, you don't just get the food for free. All the managers tell them that the applications are handled online. Harry and Lloyd are a little confused by this because they are so far removed from technology. They don't know what to do, but they also say that they're not going to pay for the food and they run away. So they kind of joke around with each other and hint that the only reason they applied for that job to begin with was for the free food. I think the subtext of that is they have no idea what's actually going on. So they end up playing the game Manhunt with local neighborhood kids, trying to discuss their next step. And for Manhunt, for those who may be unfamiliar, it's just a variation of hide and seek or cops and robbers. There's a group of people who go look for a group of other people. So Harry and Lloyd are playing Manhunt with a bunch of the neighborhood kids, and they're hiding inside the bushes, and they're trying to figure out what their next step is. And they decide that they need the internet. If everything's handled online now, they determine, yeah, let's get the internet and see what that's all about. So keep in mind, this is 2018, and they've never had access to the internet before. You can kind of see what's going to happen here. A local homeowner comes outside and sees that Lloyd and Harry are on his property playing with a bunch of kids. He gets really freaked out and screams at them to get off the property. And Lloyd is like, it's a game, man. It's just a game. And the dude starts mocking him, jumps into one of his lies and said that growing up he had 8 back surgeries and he has to walk like this. And like, thanks a lot, guy, for calling it out and thinking that it's an okay thing to say. The guy feels really bad. Lloyd snaps, is like, ha, I got you. You're an idiot, and runs away. Not even fazed by the whole thing. So the game of Manhunt kind of ends. One of the kids who's with them is like 14 years old, and she says that she runs her own online shop, and she reveals that she makes $1,000 per week. Harry is like, that's like $20,000 a year. And Lloyd is like, before taxes. So they ask if this kid will come over and set up the internet for them. Not really understanding what the internet is, what it's for. They think it's just kind of like an instant money. So she does. She gets them squared away with Gmail and YouTube and webcams and Amazon and Reddit and Netflix and Hulu, all that fun stuff. Once everything is set up, it takes less than 24 hours for them to go down the dark rabbit hole that is the internet and find some awful, awful stuff. They're seeing things like street fights and people yelling at each other for no reason, like there's no resolution to public freakouts and stuff like that. People just saying horribly mean things to each other in the comments. Everybody just is on each other's throat constantly. And Harry and Lloyd are devastated by this. The thing that we can say about their characters is that while they're idiots, they're incredibly empathetic and they feel greatly. And because they feel so greatly, they're seeing a lot of hatred and a lot of foul behavior, and they're not okay with it. And Lloyd thinks back to the guy that yelled at them in the yard when they were just trying to have fun, and doesn't think they have a place in this world anymore, especially after failing to secure the loves of their life. With not too much deliberation, they decide they want to end it all. So what happens is they try to hang themselves without having any knowledge of knots or anything like that, without realizing that their webcam is also on and live streaming. So while they're getting ready to hang themselves by the neck, which is very morbid, a lot of people start tuning in and watching as it happens live. Now, when they actually go through with it, their ropes, aka shoelaces, snap, they drop to the floor, and they are unharmed, aside from a little bit of burn on their neck. Their video then goes viral. People are sharing it. They're referring to it as like the idiot suicide fail. Some pretty dark stuff. And that is another theme that I want to have run through this movie, is that the first movie kind of pushed a little bit in terms of darkness. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the first movie. They sold a decapitated bird to a blind kid in a wheelchair. I don't think I have to defend darkness anymore. I mean, Harry took a wild dump in a toilet that didn't work on his first date. So this series is very dark. So when the video starts to rack up huge views, the advertisers come in and they're pulling in kind of a lot of money. They're getting millions and millions of views. Those clicks are adding up. The AdSense is adding up. Everything's adding up. While this is happening, they discover clips online of Shark Tank. And they think, after watching a few episodes of Shark Tank, they are now VCs, venture capitalists. And they decide that they want to acquire that 14-year-old's business. And they do. And now they're making more money. They start to acquire other local businesses for equity, which they don't really understand. But it all shows high return rates on investment. Because of these new businesses that they're acquiring, some of them are online stuff, some of them are as silly as the ice cream man. But they're funding him to go out and sell better ice cream to kids, and in return, kids are buying more. In not a lot of time, it allows them to buy a brand new home, so they're no longer in an apartment. And they start buying fancy electronics and VR and AR and flat screen TVs and musical instruments that they don't know how to play. They're basically running a startup. They now have their own in-house Subway, their own in-house Jamba Juice, and their own in-house movie theater concession stand, but no in-house movie theater. So when people come in to pitch them ideas to get funded, they hear the ideas, they kick out the people that they don't like, and I think we could have a lot of fun with some really funny pitches that come in there. And with the ideas that they do like, instead of making an offer, they just straight up steal the idea. It will cut to a scene where they discover online cam girls. And so Harry and Lloyd get that mischievous look in their eye, but they end up having these women do pretty harmless things. Things like smell your own toes and kiss another girl, and then they're like, oh my god, when these women do it. Harry says he feels funny when they do those things and has to excuse himself from the room. They also get super into conspiracy theories that make no sense. Things like the 50s never happened. JFK's assassination was an alt-right movement committed by the liberal snowflake SJWs. With the new money, Lloyd buys the Batmobile, so they're getting into a silly car. Harry buys a tiny house school bus and cannot get over the fact that it looks like a school bus on the outside, but it's not going to school. You can sleep there and not be homeless. It blows his mind. They host parties. They have giant games of Manhunt on their property, in their backyard. At one point, a neighbor pounds on their door complaining about the noise, and Lloyd pretends to be deaf because that's the kind of dark stuff he's into. More and more, these investments are paying off. Again, we're watching them fail upwards. Only they're not really failing now. They're actually kind of succeeding, but most of it's by accident. Then the feds and the IRS come knocking. Naturally, if someone's making a ton of money, they're going to get looked at a little closer. They decide to rip off the plot of Disney's Blank Check and say that it's all because of a man named Macintosh. And it buys them just enough time to get everything in order, or at least have their legal team get everything in order. But it also gives them the idea to add a water slide to the side of their house. They host a pool party for the grand opening. Harry and Lloyd run around giving everyone wedgies until they find a girl who's wearing a thong bikini and are profoundly confused. Why does she opt into giving herself a wedgie? Shouldn't there be like more, and why? What is this? Then Lloyd says he has an idea, and it cuts to a crowd chanting, lick your toes, and the girl licking her own foot while Harry feels weird and has to excuse himself. So the big crescendo happens when they get a call from Ellen. She wants to do a piece about how two men down on their luck became overnight millionaires. They come onto the show in flowy white button-up shirts and khaki yoga pants, and they're barefoot, and they bow and say namaste to everyone. Again, I think it's really funny when people say namaste in place of thank you. Ellen brings up the suicide attempt, and Harry and Lloyd get a bit too overexcited talking about it and about why it failed. And if they had to do it again, they know exactly why it failed, and this is what they would do. And so they grab some rope, they grab some cable, and they hook it over the light rig, and the crew is looking at each other like, whoa, what? Even Ellen is like, hey, I don't think we should. And before she can stop them, they're just like, yeah, if we were going to do it right, it would have been like this. And then they both jump off the table and die. They die. There's an uncomfortable moment of Ellen looking shocked, her audience gasping, and the bodies swinging. Roll credits. I'm not kidding. Here's why this ending works. It fits with the Dumb and Dumber series. These characters are so lovable that it only makes sense to give them their best life up until their very last second. Why not let them go out on top? Why not let them go out with everything they've ever wanted, minus the loves of their life? It's how they should go out. And if there's ever a reason to take someone out that way, it's this. They're going out on not even their own terms. Kind of their own stupidity is what led to their ultimate demise, but leading up to it, we see them fulfill everything they've ever wanted to do. To me, that is a very perfect ending for a series like this. Now, after the credit rolls at the very end, there's a wide shot of their graves next to each other. One is the kind of faded orange color, and one is the faded blue color, harkening back to the tuxedos in the first movie. And it shows a bunch of people walking up, and you can only see their feet. And then you see, like, Coca-Cola hitting the ground, and as it pans up, it's someone pouring one out for them. And they're not really recognizable until the dude picks his cup back up and says, yeah, man, big gulps. Fade to black. And that is how I would end Dumb and Dumber 3.